Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about the ghosts that haunt the castle in the capital of Wales, Cardiff Castle. Back in 2019 I made a trip to Wales and did not only visit Cardiff Castle, which I already made a video about, but I also visited the beautiful capital of Wales, Cardiff. And of course, I visited Cardiff Castle when I was there. I was deeply fascinated by the beauty of the castle and the history behind it. And as a fan of Doctor Who, I had my little nerd moment when I stood in the old library, which was used for the library in the TARDIS of the 11th Doctor. But there was one thing I had completely forgotten about: that a castle as old as this had to be haunted in some way. Looking back, I might have sensed something in one of the long passages leading around the castle walls, but maybe it was just the tightness and the fact that those were old World War II defense tunnels. However, Cardiff Castle is said to be home to several ghosts. Not really surprising, since the first Roman fort had been built in the year 55 on the castle grounds, starting a process of building, rebuilding and improving over centuries to get what is today known as Cardiff Castle. And even though I haven't seen any ghosts, I was eager to take a closer look at those legends. One of the many residents of Cardiff Castle throughout history was the second Marquess of Bute, John Crichton Stuart. The castle was owned by his family for over 6 generations. He was a very wealthy aristocrat who built the Cardiff docks and developed the iron and coal industries in Wales. One evening in 1848, he had a great banquet during which everything seemed to be like always, but after which he suddenly died out of unknown causes in a small chamber behind where today lies the library, which back then served as a dressing room. The room where he died was later converted into a small church, decorated by a bust of his. And when a custodian saw a ghost dressed in a red coat in that chapel, it was thanks to the bust that he could identify the ghost immediately. The Marquess is still said to be seen staring at people or walking through the fireplace and the 6-foot-thick wall. Maybe he hasn't even noticed yet that he had died. But he's not the only one haunting the castle. His second wife also hasn't found peace yet and was seen several times. Lady Sophia Rawdon-Hastings, who was said to be a difficult woman to please and a very obsessive one, never got along with her husband's family. And one can only wonder how she thought about the first wife of her husband. After all, he was buried right next to his first wife. Maybe it's jealousy and her husband's ghost, who is still roaming the castle walls, that binds her to this world. One specific area that also seems to be frequently haunted is the clock tower. And no wonder, the clock tower was used as a séance room in Victorian times. Never call for ghosts if you don't know how to get rid of them again. A female music student once used the room to practice piano when she suddenly heard the door clicking behind her. She turned around and saw a woman in a dress from the 1800s. At first, she thought that might be a drama student, but the woman ignored her, went out of the window and vanished, leaving the poor student confused and with a sudden sadness in her heart. Nobody knows who that ghost might have been, and how many female ghosts at all haunt Cardiff Castle, for there's also another, known as the Grey Lady. another unknown ghost, if not the one from the clock tower, who was seen wearing a grey dress, sliding slowly past the castle, towards the bridge over the River Taff, and from there she is said to look towards one of the towers and slowly waving. This ghost can't only be seen at night, but it's said that she even was spotted in broad daylight. And for sure, I would rather want to see a peaceful ghost like her in broad daylight than the other lady ghost that is said to haunt the castle. No one knows who she is either, but she is known as the Faceless Lady, for she has appeared to observers as a full body apparition, but without a face. She is said to rearrange objects within the castle, especially in the storerooms. Several psychics visited the castle, trying to find out more about the ghosts, and several said to have received the name Sarah when they channeled the other world. So maybe this mysterious Sarah is the responsible ghost for the mysterious footsteps that have been heard by the custodians at night, and for the doors of the main dining room to open and close seemingly by themselves in the middle of the night. But the probably most famous ghost story of Cardiff Castle might be the story of the Phantom Coach. In November 1886, a man named Boyle sat in the library of the castle when he heard horses and a coach arriving. He asked his butler who the visitors might be, only to be informed by him that no coach had arrived. It is said that only days later, Boyle got word from a family member that had suddenly died. But he wasn't the only one who encountered that ghostly coach in some way. In 1956, David Bracken reported that he had passed the walls of the castle at night. He had heard the noises of the horses' harnesses and the clatter of their hoofs, as well as the jingle of a bell and the cry of an Irish coachman, coming from the direction of the Canton Bridge, just moments before the coach passed him, went through the closed castle gates and vanished. And there are several more reports of people either hearing or seeing the coach, and some of them have reportedly experienced a tragic loss in their family just shortly afterwards. If you see my video about the Dullahan, you might have recognized the similarities to the Coche de Bower, the carriage that is driven by the Dullahan to collect souls. But, well, in this case the carriage seems to be more like a death omen, like the banshees call, rather than something to ensure it. And anyway, Cardiff Castle is haunted by a lot of ghosts, one more spooky than the other. If you ever have the chance, go and visit Cardiff Castle. Even if you don't see any ghosts, you're in a place with rich history and you see a lot of beautiful architecture. And you might get a feeling for why the ghosts don't want to leave this hauntingly beautiful place. Thank you very much for listening. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up and check out my other videos. See you next time. Bye!